Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good morning.
Good.
Whoa.
Oh, I like this. Hello, everyone. Check. Can they hear us?
It doesn't.
Did it happen again?
Check.
We're
Check.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Alright, cool.
Did I do this?
Hey guys, this is a panel. Welcome for a TV show called Interview with Monster Girls. Interviews with Monster Girls.
Shame.
Look at me, I'm looking at it. And the director isn't here yet, Jād Saxton. But until then, we were thinking like random Q&A or Q&A related questions.
Yeah. I guess if you,
we
we love the
entertain?
show. Bryn is amazing in it. I'm okay. Austin's also there.
Yeah.
And our demi mama, Jade, will be along shortly.
Yes.
And let me be professional and at least hide my phone a little bit. Let's see.
Should we do
Austin,
our-
yeah, Austin, who do you play?
I play a character named Yusuke with 3 U's. That's true. And I wanted to remember more about the essence of him because I remember performing him slightly. But his character description on Wikipedia is just energetic and perverted. So that's all.
That's all you
Typecasting.
That's only one of them are true.
I'll let you guess
Only
which one.
At each time.
Yeah.
Only one at each time.
I'm either energetic or perverted. Because when I'm tired, never mind.
Happy Saturday, everyone.
Happy Saturday. I'm Bryn
Taylor's
Apprill.
birthday.
He's like, no, we all know. We all know.
Yeah, we know. I'm Bryn Apprill. I voice Hikari, the vampire.
She's so good. I voice Kyoko Machi. Hi, I'm Terri Doty.
The cutie booty.
The cutie with it's really funny to explain it to people. Like, what happened to her? She was born that way. I think
She has no face.
She'd lose her head if it wasn't bolted on. Oh wait.
Yes, Doulahan. I actually learned what a Doulahan was because of it. So, yes, fantastic show. Thank you for being here. If you have a question, we might have an answer, or we might make Austin do an interpretive dance. We don't know.
I only brought 2 pairs of pants, people.
Each has been through a lot.
Oh, and, yes.
I have a question.
Question. Do you want to ask it up here, or do you can stay there? It's like,
It's about the Doulahan.
Yes.
Would you be able to sneak into movie theaters and like be able to eat without having like enter your body, or is it like?
Yeah, I would be able to sneak into movie theaters. They explain it in episode 2, but a Doulahan is like the headless horseman, but not bloody. She's one of 3 people throughout the world whose head is not attached to her body and flames come out of her neck. Or where her neck should be.
Torso.
Yeah, torso. Let's say that. Although a good chunk of recording is like when I'm waiting for something to get placed, I'm like, where is your neck? Were you born that way? Like that sonogram must have been weird. But never think of that. I thought way too much about it to the point where the engineer would like keep a list of my questions. And like by the end of the show, if we have not answered all of Terry's questions, we have failed as a show. They got to answer all of them. But we established that the body and the head can be separated from like several hundred miles. So yes, someone could be like, I really want to see this movie, but I don't want to pay for it. So can you just take my head to the movies? Like use like your mom purse and like get me in and just boom, done. But as we established also, the body is affected. So at one point in episode 2, I go on a date and I leave my body with Hikari, and Hikari
Bad
just keeps
decision.
messing with my body. So like as I'm on the date, I'm like screaming, and then it cuts to her like poking my boobs.
Who's this weird guy that only went on a date with your head?
Mr. Takahashi. It was a practice date. This show is, when we all got cast, we're like, it's a Monster Girl show, and the lead is our teacher. We're like, where is this going? It's
Yep.
pure. It's pure. It's pure. We're like, okay. I mean, like we've all done that show, but
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, she's never been on a date. She's really never had friends, and she kind of gets babied by the people around her. So like, Hikari actually sets it up.
Yeah,
sets up
it's
the
mostly
date.
just to see if she can, like in the future. Like, what did you just
Shh, nothing happens.
What was that?
I don't know. I don't want to find out. I broke the table.
There's definitely a screw on the ground. Oh man, Austin.
Hey, Bryn, never mind.
Ah! I saw what he was
Don't
about
touch
to
me.
do.
Energetic and perverted. What was that in?
Anyway,
But, yes,
it was
I
mostly just to
thinking
see if she
movie.
could. It was mostly just to see if she could for the future. They wanted to see if she could have that normal aspect to her life.
Mhm. Dang it, yes. They're actually, it's so funny, like the show itself, like, I mean, Hikari's a vampire, and then Sarah Wiedenheft is a snow woman, Yuki, and then there's Misato, who's a succubus, and we're all just acting like it's the most normal thing, but then there's this thing in episode 10 where Mr. Takahashi has this idea about how different Machi would be if her head was attached to her body. And so we get to see her, and it's so weird to be like, she looks really weird, like as a whole. I'm like, suspension of disbelief is gone. This is just weird. She's too tall now.
You look better when you hold your head, lady.
It's just an easy arm day all the time.
It's like someone who you met with glasses and then they finally take their glasses
Or braces.
off. Like, never mind. Yeah, with braces, there's a better
Friends
one.
that always, they're like, stop staring at my mouth. I'm like, I will. Like, here, I'm sorry.
It should be better, but it's not somehow.
Thank you for your question. What else, guys? Someone else.
Now we're talking.
You pick.
Blue hair.
Okay, how does it feel playing a perverted, act, Like, I don't
Bryn?
How do you mix perversion and character?
I've had a lot of training.
Well, yay!
I say that as a joke, but it's true. I did a lot of harem animes that helped typecast me, I guess. But Yusuke is pure at heart. He's just a young boy trying to understand himself.
Yeah.
And Wikipedia describes him, I don't know. I told them earlier that Wikipedia describes my character as perverted and energetic.
Accurate.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I thought it was at 1:30. I was still in bed. So you get to witness me with my full bed head and everything. Hopefully you'll forgive me.
You still look
Look
great. Like, I hate how great you look.
Oh. It's despicable.
Yeah.
Our Demi Mama.
Yeah. Aw, Demi Mama. That's so cute. Yeah, what'd I miss?
We were talking about how perverted Austin is and how, like, you just went, like,
Art imitates life.
you went, yes, that needs
Right.
to be Austin.
Just kidding, Austin.
I've been preparing for this role my entire life.
Has anyone here seen the show? Yeah? Yeah? Any people here who have not? Show of hands. Yeah, cool.
That's fun.
I wish we had like a little clip, but if you get a chance to check it out, go see a trailer, whatever, and it's all available on DVD right now, y'all. It's the sweetest show. It has so much heart. I don't know what's already been said, sorry for
Oh, no.
rambling. Yeah, and it just, it has all these like parallels, like I think, to like other high school situations where if you're an outsider or you feel like you don't have a place, it really kind of speaks to that, and it's so sweet. And this group of demi-humans or girls that are kind of allowed to be out and about, like out of the demi-closet or whatever you want to call it, for lack of a better term, to be who they are integrating into a school system, and they kind of join together and become like really good friends, and you kind of see what life is like for them with their different struggles, which kind of parallels to other struggles that we have in the non-demi world. And it's one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on. Everyone up here is amazing and did an amazing job
Thank
on the
you.
show. So I hope you get the chance to check it out if you haven't seen it. And I'm sure the people here that have seen it can attest to that.
And it's okay if you like the subs. It's that good of a show. We don't care.
Same. I mean, I watch, as the director, I watch all the subs before the dubs, and I thoroughly enjoy that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that, like because we talked about that, I think, in recording, at least for me, where it, like Machi specifically, it reminded me of how a friend of mine who's confined to a wheelchair, it's like, I really wish people would stop babying me and see me as a person, not just someone in a wheelchair. So we kind of, I always kind of thought of that, or like social anxiety with Yuki and her fears, and Hikari is just fun. Like, adorably fun. So she has the best lines. It's annoyingly like I can't even be mad. I'm like, oh, that was a good line, but only Bryn could have said it that way. Or like her little like tags, like, you know, like what was it? Like something polar bear.
Oh, okay. So first of all, well, did y'all introduce your characters and who you were and everything? Like what type of demi-human you were?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then there's another demi-human, played by Sarah Wiedenheft. I'm just, I don't know, rambling on because I'm like my, what do you call it, adrenaline. So she plays Yuki, which is a snow woman. And they do a really interesting take on that because that's like a kind of really specific Japanese type of demi-human. And then I think that's it until the OVA, and then there's like a little surprise there going on. Oh, no, sorry, there's Saki, who's a succubus, which takes on like a whole other kind of thing or whatever. And she's a teacher at the school and has her own anxieties. But so the writer was Kristen McGuire of the show. She was the ADR script adapter, and she has 2 little girls of her own. And it kind of started off as like a "see you later, alligator," like sort of like little phrases like that. She started adding more and more for Hikari, like "take care, polar bear." And then at one point, like I think all of us, or was it just me and Kristen, were in a thread coming up with like different ways we could say goodbye for Hikari.
It had to have an animal at the end.
It had to have an animal at the end. And I think my favorite one that actually made it in was the "I'm out, river trout."
Yeah. Or gotta poop Malamute.
Yeah. I might still have that list somewhere, but I mean we got a little, I don't know, competitive about it, and just had a lot of fun coming up with ways to say goodbye with an animal at the end of it.
Yeah, nobody was like, Terri, you should do this. I'm like, I am doing this. Like, I need to help.
I accept this, Jād. Yeah. Very cute little layer to the show for sure.
We got a couple questions. One about how Austin is able to be perverted and energetic at the same time, and then a really good one about like would Masha be able to sneak just her head into the movies? Like, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of an amazing superpower, but Hikari really takes advantage of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'm forgetting about our fearless leader, Mr. Takahashi, played by Chris George.
So good.
I just love how sweet the relationship he has with all these kids and how he looks out for them, and just really ends up being like I don't know, just a good mentor for them and a friend for them to have at the school that's got a little bit more adult life experience and all of that. Yeah.
Like at first, I think he approaches it kind of as a science experiment and like a journalist would, but then there's even a point where like teachers are like, why do you care so much about them? It's like, because it seems like nobody else does.
Yeah.
Questions, guys? Comments?
Questions?
All right. Yes.
Yeah, sure. There's a mic up here if you guys
Save your
want to
voice.
hear your voice out.
Instead of shouting so
tower.
everybody can hear me,
Yeah.
I could just use the mic.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Here, you can have mine.
No, it's fine. I was just curious, since I'm not familiar with the show, I'll ask something with respect to your voice acting.
Yeah.
Have you ever played a character that was like way outside your comfort zone, but when you got done, actually was really effective?
Definitely.
What kind of characters have you played like that?
It's hard for me to judge because I'm always uncomfortable.
Constant state of discomfort.
But on the flip side, hopefully every role is some version of that. But not to give a cop-out answer, I would say for me it was 91 Days, probably because I don't get to do an accent very much, and this was a specific one. Please don't ask me to do it because I did a great. The final product sounds great.
That's exactly the kind of answer I'm looking for.
Sweet.
Yeah, accent work is always really, really fun. It's always really good to have under your belt because you never know when it's going to come up. Because for us, we'll get like video game auditions that are just like, ooh, French accent, ooh, German accent, you know. So it's always good to have.
Is that?
Yeah, right.
Transatlantic. Like,
Or you'll book work.
I would die to have to do a transit. Oh God, yeah.
It
What
was
kind of accent
so-
is that anyway?
that's like, that's why you're here. Like, okay.
Yep.
It just it's I forget what it's called, but it's back when like a lot of the early movies and like early things like that. It was a way that
Look, yeah, sing.
people spoke in the movies back then. That was like required that everyone have this same sort of unified ridiculous diction and like sort of phrasing that like is almost European or almost like British, but like not quite.
I think
But
there
if
was-
you've seen, oh sorry.
No, sorry.
If you've seen Hunger Games, Effie, she's doing a transatlantic accent. Like that's what she's modeled after. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
The Madonna British. That's what that is. It's Madonna British.
That's
It's
what-
Frieza British. There you go.
Oh, God.
It was like the industry in America being influenced by England specifically and the British RP, right? And that's why it's transatlantic, because it's like in between the two of us.
Meet in the middle for
That's all I
something
have to say.
ridiculous, but it's really fun to do. And they always talk so fast too, like it's 507 Carpathia survives on board.
Is that a problem for you, darling?
Yeah.
They actually found out recently in the last like 2 years that most of what we think is that like, hey, you tops, buddy, is actually a film issue. No one actually talked like that.
Yeah, it's like they
Is
just
that the
wanted them to
film
like
sped up?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And
You're so smart, Terry.
for more information tomorrow, the Novice's Guide to the Booth. No, for like, okay, so you said accent work, but is there a character that you fell in love with?
Kind of going back to yesterday's panel, the first time that I got to play a psychopath, that one was really cool. Completely different outlook on a character, completely different look to backstories and approaching how you want to like evolve your character. It was very, very different, completely different way of like getting into character.
What show is that?
It was for King's Game. Yeah. What about you?
I tend, if a director's known me for a while and they're having, I don't think that women have trouble with sarcasm, but sometimes if they know me, they're like, so this character is sarcastic.
It's a stretch
Who
for
do
you.
we go with? And then I don't know. Oh, me. Duh. It's to the point where it's like my mother's like, "Are you being sarcastic?" I'm like, "I don't know." Half the time, don't know. But I want to say Machi took some adjusting because she's not someone I typically get through funny. It was my first time really working with Jād. And I was, I think, the first person to record, or if not one of the first people, so I knew nothing about the show. I was working off of a vacuum, and she's just a very different character, and it's also just really like weird because you're used to seeing your like there's the body, I'm looking for the mouth flaps here. It's like, no, my head's on my desk, hi. And so initially I kind of thought that she was a little kooky, and I kind of like channeled like Luna Lovegood for that first episode. But then the second one, I went a little more unicorn with, like that little like reaction. Oh, she does that a lot. And then the body also has its own reactions, which we would do. I asked Jād and the engineer, could I please do the reactions after Machi's voice, because it requires like me grabbing my throat and going like, oh, like, or like what I call like the turkey sound. But there's nothing dry or sarcastic about her. She's a cinnamon roll.
She's an innocent.
She's the most precious character I think I've ever played. So that was.
Is that what a cinnamon roll is? Because I keep seeing that out there. And I'm like,
She's
what's
so
a cinnamon
beautiful and so pure. She's a
roll?
precious
Now it's the
cinnamon.
difference. Great.
I said that to Steve, and he's like, my husband is like, does a cinnamon roll mean she's cute? I'm like, and she's adorable and innocent. He's like, so say that, cinnamon roll. I want to eat a cinnamon roll. I don't want to eat machi. I'm like, well, thank you. But
Cutty might sometimes.
he kind of might. Actually, she never tried. It was Yuki because Yuki's so nice and cool.
Cool, yeah.
But
No, we had the test, the arm test.
oh, that's
Arm
right.
test.
Did a whole thing about who's the most delicious according to Hikari
The
and
most biteable.
the most biteable.
Best mouthfeel.
Not Mr. Takahashi because his arms were too hairy.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that whole scene.
That was so weird.
Gross moment.
But yeah, for me, it's Machin because it's not like I didn't like her, but it's just she's so different from what I typically get. That actually, I would say that working with her has actually influenced things since then, where I feel more comfortable going there to the sweet place. Because even with boys that I play, it tends to be very dry. Or if I do accent work, I tend to play the British scientist. It's like, hello. I want to say the name. I want to say the word Jaguar at some point. Is that possible?
Put that in the script.
Like at one point, my code Yas, like there's a huge fight breaking out, and it's just me drinking tea. Like this is lovely.
Tea was bastard.
But yeah, it's amazing. That means nothing, or that required nothing for me. But Machi, I mean, there's a whole point where she's like trying to get Mr. Takahashi because she's got a crush on him to kiss her, and she messes up, and he actually like drops a bunch of stuff, and she drops her head, and he actually catches it right before it hits the floor, and he yells at her, and she cries. I actually started getting like, it's just that awkward thing where you're like, I put myself out there, that did not work out, I really want to run away, and she does. She like cries, and there's like tears on his folders as she just runs away, and I'm like, oh, that's not something I get to do very often. I feel things, I'm human, oh no.
To be clear, you're just yelling at her in the way that like you yell at a child who gets lost at the grocery store, like, come back here, I love you so much. Like you're yelling at them like you
You
care
know
about
what
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you care about them. Yeah. I don't know if I have a comfort zone. No, I'm just kidding. Anything's, my motto is lean in, it really is.
Because she has bad balance.
Because I play so many weird, pervy characters, so I just gotta lean on into them. Like where I'm from, how not to summon a demon lord, lean in. Yeah, accents. A couple things come to mind for me. When something is like, because another question we get a lot is like what characters are kind of relatable more to your human life, and I think when something kind of hits home really hard and like is a direct parallel, that's a little bit uncomfortable because it's like, oh, I know exactly how that feels. Like it's kind of bending from acting to like the feelings of the real kind of slipping in there. I can think of two movies, anime movies that I did. One was called Blood Sea, The Last Dark, where I played a character whose father had died, and then also in Wolf Children, I played Yuki, another character whose father had died. Both of those hit really home to me because my father passed when I was 4, and so just a lot of real emotions come up, which kind of get you out of your comfort zone and make you have to just work through that. Horror stuff is hard for me. I worked with Terri on a project. What's it called?
Junji Ito.
I can never say that right.
Yes, but actually Jade's pretty freaking funny without meaning to be sometimes. She had to do a maniacal laugh, and it scared the engineer. It was
I mean, it was fun, but some of that imagery is very uncomfortable for me. I don't like horror movies,
Yeah, your
especially
episode had a lot of
the gore ones. Our episode was the one if you ate that stuff or didn't eat enough or whatever, you just burst.
It's called Smash,
blew up
if that tells you anything.
Yeah. So that was kind of gross, y'all.
Yeah.
You got some other questions?
So, Jay, this one's for you in particular because you direct and you work with the writers. How hard do you work, or do you try to make the English voiceover similar in quality to the Japanese voiceover, and how hard is it to sort of keep the dialogue the same, or do you just sort of make up new stuff as you go and try to come up with a different personality for the same visuals?
What do you say by quality? You mean audio quality or
No, I mean, like
the story.
Yeah, I mean, like you came up with all these different ways to say goodbye,
Mhm.
which clearly
Not
that
in
wasn't
the
in
J.
Japanese at all.
No. Mm-mm.
So how close to
I mean, I like to say what we do is creative adaptation, where we still have like a hand in shaping these characters' journeys. I mean, 100%. Like I almost always like love what the seiyu's doing, but we just sometimes have more room to play. A lot of times, just because of the flaps. Like, for example, watashi wa, or whatever. That's like watashi. That means like I. Right? Well, we say I, so we have automatically like 4 more flaps to work with to like fill in and say stuff, and so it's just kind of we almost like have to do that, but also we want to put like our stamp on it, and just like they provide the voice and like the kind of feeling of whatever goes in, like the writer at the same time, and like our collaboration as directors with writers. We want to have like a say in it, but some of it does kind of happen organically, like that whole goodbye thing. That just happened as a fun thing that like we all liked as a team, and just started trying to find ways to put it in there, because I mean that's not in my mind taking away from the J at all, or from the Japanese portrayal of it. We're just putting our own little spin on like how Hikari's personality, which I think with the way that it was animated, like totally made sense. Like I think Hikari would totally do that. Especially like with her relationship with her sister and all of that, like they have a silly thing going on there too. So in terms of how hard do we work, like I think we work really, really hard to make sure that we're still providing the exact like plot and feeling and getting that across while adding our own flavor with our words that sometimes are not directly translatable. Some of that stuff isn't like a joke in Japan, like it's not funny here, or doesn't even make sense culturally here. So we have to change it so that like it makes more sense to us. Otherwise, unless you're a fluent Japanese speaker or really, really hardcore, I don't know if otaku is the right word, but just like someone who really kind of knows about all the Japanese culture and the jokes, it just won't play as well. And I think it makes it more fun for us, the dubbing side and what we're doing as well.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, just adding on to that point, because it's some point. Like that's why they kind of make it localized. Like the words localization is, we like older dubs. You do see it like, hey, those aren't cousins. They're a lesbian couple. Okay, don't change that. All right, but then if you know what I'm talking about, it's pretty damn funny. Yep.
Just made it worse. It was like, oh,
You're like, wait, if they're cousins, that's really weird. Okay, let love. But there were a couple times when I did some adaptive script writing where it was like, oh, like think like maybe instead of sushi, say burgers. I'm like, well, there's sushi on the screen, so no. But at the same point, I directed a show, Baka and Test. There are 2 very openly gay characters, and in the J, we always say the J, but in the Japanese, it was always about like, look at this weird guy, or like, oh, this guy's so nice. But there was a very adorable character voiced by Christy Kang. She was gay. She was in love with Leah Clark's character, and Leah's character Minami in the Japanese was very much like, doesn't she know I'm a girl? And so we took all that out. I asked the writers too, I'm like, are you getting, they're like, yeah, we're getting rid of that. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So we took out all those references and just made it about how Minami was annoyed. She's like, I'm clearly not into you. So instead of making it homophobic, just make it like, girl, get the point, I'm not into you. And there was also a reference to Greg Ayer's character, Coda, and we always refer to him as Mussolini. I'm like, okay, nobody's gonna get that. So we took it out, no one ever complained, at least not to me, so that's the same thing. But yeah, you just don't know. Or Code Geass, like I was saying, that English character, the director let me, like it's supposed to be like this weird, subset where like all these countries are melded together. So the director let us choose if we wanted to do an accent. And he's like, you're either American or British. I'm like, British. Immediately. I will always go British. I was a really annoying, like, I am Mexican. My mother's like, you're Mexican. I'm like, oh, I know. I'm going to go watch Doctor Who, Mum. And she's like, can you speak Spanish? Yes, I can. It's very jarring, but yeah, no, you just don't know. So you have to take chances and remember that our Japanese affiliates do sign off on it. So if you guys are bothered by it and it's out there, that means that they went,
Yeah. And to kind of just piggyback off that, we're piggybacking back to what you said about like taking about the homophobic stuff out. Like a lot of that is because things in Japan have not progressed maybe as quickly as they have over here, and so the way that they have to creatively do things over there is in like a very coded way, and we don't have to do it that way. Thank goodness. But that's their way, and I'm sure in the past, or I know in the past, like you've done things in coded ways too. That like if you knew what was up and knew what was going on, and you got the message loud and clear without like breaking any television. I forget what the television laws are though. Something.
yeah.
There's like call letters, but I forget what they're called.
Shut up. Sorry, I was talking to my phone.
Silence your phone.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, this is for all four of you. What were your favorite cartoons and animes from your childhood?
Ooh. Does anybody have that just lined up?
Daria.
Yeah.
Shocking no one.
But did you like Daria and Beavis and Butthead?
I did watch Beavis and Butthead, and it's just so funny to see how Daria grew over time. Also, that's another example of your job kind of ruining nostalgia. We're like, yeah, let's look, someone got me Daria for my birthday, and I'm sweet, and I watched it, I'm like, oh, some of these actors were definitely interns. Oh, hello, Helen, this is my daughter. I am buying her a birthday present. I'm like, oh, no. But yeah, Daria is the big one for me. There are several others, and you realize, like, oh, I wanted to be a voice actor. Well, before I realized I should, like, hey, maybe I want to be a voice actor. It's like, oh, yeah. But Daria is the big one.
Wait, what's your childhood? Do you mean like when you were like 14?
When do we have to go?
I'm younger. Sorry, Daria, yeah, kooky. Like Rainbow Bright, Care Bears, My Little Pony. I loved all of that because I'm a child of the 80s.
Care Bears was dark. It's a Care Bears were awesome.
All Care Bear movies were like my jam.
Some of the movies were intense.
Yeah.
So kids get hypnotized.
Like, stuff that we wouldn't get away, like, that wouldn't, like, jive now. Like, wait. Like, this is like a 1,000-year-old spirit, and he's like falling in love with this like 8-year-old girl. What's up? What's going on?
None of you guys watched Johnny Quest,
That's
did you?
literally
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I feel like that, like, right after I said it. I'm like, wait, I love that show.
It's great.
Wait, which show?
I was like, and Jade's like, you just, like, described like a show we are actually dubbing. I'm like,
Care Bears probably was anime, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of that stuff was. Like, a lot of it had Japanese animation and it just wasn't called anime back then.
Yeah, that's hard. Like, when is the cutoff for childhood?
I know, like, or even now, like, I'm 35, but I'm like, I just got Harry Potter tattoo. Like, I'm still a kid. Like,
Yeah.
Gravity Falls rocked my
Yeah.
world a couple months ago.
Yeah, and like when Avatar was going around, like The Last Airbender, loved that, you know. I loved Courage the Cowardly Dog, which like traumatized people, but I was like, this is amazing.
Do you know where that started? I believe. Because if anybody had HBO in the 90s, before the movie would come on, there would often be short films. And Courage the Cowardly Dog was a short film on HBO in the 90s. And then it got picked up as a TV show.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like, no one realized that, wait, Daria was like being a teenager. I think we even graduated the same year. Whatever. Transformers is a big one too, or specifically Beast Wars.
X-Men or
Oh yeah,
animated series?
Yeah.
And Batman?
Yeah.
Those are quality.
Yeah.
Uh,
Teen Titans.
All these people still voice acting today, but yeah, like sometimes we're on panels with him, like, be cool, be cool.
Dogma for both franchises was created in those animated series. You know, usually it's like the comic books that dictate like the lore, but like Harley Quinn was created from the animated series. A bunch of stuff about X-Men that I don't know.
Harley Quinn and Two-Face and a little bit of people.
I loved Johnny Quest though because people died in that cartoon.
Yeah.
Besides died, really intense.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It didn't happen much as
Do
a
you
child.
remember Samurai Jack?
I remember Samurai Jack. I didn't watch it, but
I loved that. I loved that.
I think I was like, you know, being a delinquent in the woods by that time.
I know, I'm 23.
So yeah, you just, like, that could be the rest of the panel. It's like, oh, remember this too. What else, guys?
Awesome question. Thank you, Mandy.
You in the far back. It's you. It's you.
Oh. Oh, man. So, this is kind of a question to, I have like a two-part question. One is a question for all of you, one's for, I think mostly Jade, but many of you also have done it. The first question is, how do you guys feel about sort of people being, like, thinking up their own casts for animes that haven't been dubbed yet? And how do you feel if you were used as a reference point in said fan casting choices? And the other question I'll ask after you give your response.
What do you mean used as a reference point? You mean like
say,
we saw the fan casting and we're like, oh, that's a great idea. So that.
Well, it's more like, say, how do you feel being in, like, say, you were picked specifically to be a character of somewhere?
Oh, like, okay, like if the fans picked it, like how do you feel about that?
Yeah, like how do you guys feel about that?
I am always, I don't know if this is answering your question directly, but like from a casting standpoint, I'm always like, after I've casted, I'm always fascinated. There's this one particular podcast, I think called Dub Talk or something like that, that puts out cast lists, and I always like to listen and be like, did any of it match up? Like it fascinates me. And I think that's what I like about casting in general is, I mean, you could go down the line and we could all try to cast interviews with Monster Girls, and we would all cast it differently, or maybe like one person would match up. I think it's kind of cool and fun to kind of see other people's perspectives, and then what's really cool is even though like they chose this cast or chose that cast, it's cool to hear like, oh my gosh, but like we love that you chose that person because we never would have thought of that, and look how cool it turned out.
If I see my name on a list, I'm like, cool, start directing. That would be great. There have been some shows I'm like, oh, that would be cool, or I've never heard about the show until a Google alert was like, hey, so-and-so thinks you should be like the lead character. I'm like, I agree, I don't know what the show is, but I agree. But yes, it is really funny, like if, like all four of us were given a show like, hey, cast it, those lists would very much probably not match up because we all just work with people differently, and we're also, like just as actors alone, we're also cast very differently depending on who the director is. Like what I would do for like Joel McDonald was usually sarcastic people or boys, but then there are some people that never use me as boys, or only women, or sometimes lately, like in Houston, I typically only play younger girls. I've only recently in Made in Abyss played a boy. So yeah, sometimes it differs by studio, but I think there was on that podcast, there was one for interviews with Monster Girls, and I'll pretend I didn't watch it, but I did. And
I forget who they put as everyone.
Yeah, like all right, who's everybody's top pick? And I'm never anyone's pick, ever. So it's like, did it work? I'm like, did it work? And they're like, yeah, it took a little while. I'm like, I'm with you, I hear you. But yeah, no, we're always flattered unless it's like, hey, here's this like hentai. I'm like, oh, I guess that's sweet, but thank you.
Oh, do it.
Yeah, it's always really interesting because usually whenever people set up a lineup for a show, it's like it would be completely different dynamics within the cast, and like it would be like, ooh, with this set of actors it would be like one kind of dynamic for this show, and with this it would be another, but both would work. And so that's always really interesting, being like, that would be cool to see both takes. So that's really cool to me.
Are you all looking at me now?
I declined.
They already said it, but like, this is something I'm learning more every day. Like casting is very much an art in and of itself that I have no grasp of. And I learned, I noticed this back in college when I tried to student direct. I am terrible at casting. And that's why I don't spend a lot of time, like I don't really have a dream role. Because if I try to cast myself in something, I'm still bad at casting. But what's really exciting for me is like working with directors who recognize something inside of me that maybe I don't notice, and then give me an opportunity to explore that. That's really fun. So I'm always just happy to work. But also, it's weird reading people's reactions online, because like the first few years of me getting leading roles, all the comments were just like, where's Josh Greeley? Like, why are you?
All of them.
You're not Josh.
Getting the good ones.
Yeah, let's focus on the bad ones.
Well, but then after a few years after that, there's probably somebody else who's getting leads right now that's reading YouTube comments that are like, why are you Austin Tindle? So it's like, oh, you
Don't read the comments.
don't read the comments. Well, but in terms of like fan casting, I don't know. I don't care. It's not my business. Not my job, thank God.
What I think is cool is kind of over time, because a lot of us have been in the industry for a while, and like it mirrors the film industry in the ways that like they kind of start keeping pairs together for certain shows, because the chemistry is cool and good, and it even happens across directors. It just kind of starts happening naturally. But just like how you always want to see, I don't know, y'all, I can't think of a good pair. Like the first pair that popped in my head was, I feel like I'm gonna get judgment for saying, but like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon or something, or other like film like duos or whatever.
Chris Farley and David Spade.
Yeah. Will Ferrell and what's his name? Mr. Cellophane. John C. Reilly, like all of those. I love all of those, even if they're terrible. But it's like for Austin and I, it has happened many times. Most recently, in My Roommate is a Cat. That's been our most unique pairing. I'm the cat, and he's the owner. They've been paired up many times, and I think it's cool to kind of see how those kind of things kind of go across the board over time. And like, I think in my mind, and I see comments like, "Oh yes, they're back together again." Like people kind of like that, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Or like Jamie and Monica get paired a lot together. Or I play the younger versions of a lot of people, so sometimes it's a hey, so this person's got a flashback scene, and like, oh, it's just gonna be me just because I've played them young before, and like, sure, cool. Apparently, I sound like Rob McCollum when he was younger, sweet. Or they were casting for the female versions of all the Italian people, and Christopher Bevins was stuck on who's going to be Femme Germany, and Patrick Seitz went, well, Terri played young Frankie in One Piece, just cast Terri, and that's all it took. I'm like, can you just cast me all the time like that? That'd be nice. Yeah, so you just don't know.
The second question is for those of you who worked at both Funimation and Sentai Filmworks. How is it different working at between Funimation and Sentai?
Everybody hugs you at Sentai.
People, like, it's a different vibe. Sentai, formerly ADV, they're a little older. It's a totally different vibe because it's just a different section of Texas, and they have a different way of doing things. But my first time, it was in the Galleria area of Houston, and you needed like a code to get on the elevator, and I didn't know it, but this woman like gets on and goes like, boop, and we're going up, and like I hit, 6. And are you an actor? Yeah, actually this is my first session here. I'm from Dallas. And she goes, and I went, excuse me? She went, oh my God, you don't know my humor. I'm Kathy, I'm in legal. Yeah, just welcome, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, we got a newbie. And I'm like, Kathy, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah, but everyone signed my paper, and I immediately got cast just based off my demo that a friend just said, hey, you're looking for new people. So I just lucked out that way. But it's a different vibe. You see people like different styles, but the traditional beat method that Funny as well as other people use it's typically seen in ADR, which is like it's a beat, 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 and then on the fourth imaginary beat you go. Sentai, you don't preview at all. Typically you see what the Seiyu did first at Funimation, and then you do your take of it. You don't see that, you just go, and the Seiyu is playing underneath. You just go. And then
The chase method.
Yeah, you just chase. It does make it quicker, so when you come back to Fun, you're like, all right, let's go. Like, the beats, you're like, this beat's so slow, let's go, let's move. Like you're on coke or something, like, woo, yeah! You do it, baby, you do it. But maybe that's the thing. But someone else talk now.
What she said. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Y'all can go. Next question. Blue hat.
Okay, first of all, you ladies are beautiful.
Oh.
All thanks.
And also, how does it feel, knowing that you have fans that, care about you and the characters you play?
Oh.
Because I care about you guys.
Oh, it feels like that.
Feels like for me, I'm like, I don't deserve you guys caring so much. You guys are so sweet. I'm okay.
I think you deserve it.
Thank you. I get hugged so hard.
It's a dual feeling of like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm holding the cutest stuffed animal. This is amazing, sweet, wonderful, and like, this is really weird where I don't have ethnicity with here. It's like both at the same time. Because you're an actor and you're insecure.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to feel overwhelmed and insecure by the one direction that love tends to go. But really, it's like, and I'm trying to solidify this understanding in my mind lately about what my job is. And there's something very therapeutic about being an actor in general. And that's why theater and therapy have the same root word, because it is an exchange of like a communal healing. In general, we're all trying to fix the things that are broken and push humanity into a more fully realized place of love and kindness. So it's like kind of our job to feel that, express it, be better people by it, and then shoot it back out into the world. So thank you.
I'm gonna be super straight up. It's comforting when we have fans that are so supportive and that acknowledge that we're real people. Because unfortunately, there are fans that don't seem to grasp that concept, that seem to think that we're just voices there at, that don't really exist, that we're just
Disembodied spirit.
Yeah, and it seemed to really become even more evident with everything that's been going on lately. It's just you guys are professionals, you guys are just meant to be there for our entertainment, why would you do this to us? And it's because we're not just there for you, we need to feel we're safe or stuff like that, and to have people that understand that's wonderful, and we appreciate that you acknowledge that and that you care. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful. That was awesome. Good question.
Yes. I'm I saw you before, and I'm we're not avoiding you, so I'm waiting.
Did any of you watch Sailor Moon growing up, and what was your favorite character?
Yes, Jupiter.
Yes, Tuxedo Mask.
I didn't watch it, but I had a great time at a panel with someone who ended up being the voice of Tuxedo Mask. So now I love the character, theoretically, because I've never seen it.
Oh, but I had the biggest crush on Uranus. Biggest crush. Fun fact.
That's a cool name, Uranus.
Alright. Someone else.
Orange shirt.
Going back to what you I expect, did you do high school, college However, I'm a former teacher, so I was curious, watching you on the panel, I can sort of vision you back in school. And it's sort of brought the question out. Were you in theater? Were you forensics? Were you wallflower? Were you
Like college or high school or both?
pick either or, depending on your
I did it. Been on stage ever since I was 4. Like I started out as a singer, like in choir and church and all that. Like that's kind of where my background is. And then of course I had to foray into show choir because naturally. I love show choir. I love all the choirs, and I did a lot of community theater and high school theater. And I did as much as I could while getting a music degree in college. And I actually met Austin before we ever met, doing voiceover, doing a theater gig with him on a fake version, or not fake, that's not the word. What's the word?
Parody.
Spoof, parody.
Homage.
Homage of Buffy the Vampire Slayer called Brandy the Vampire Staker. Where Austin played, was it
Steak?
just Spike's character? And I played Willow, not Willow, I played Spruce, which is it was really fun.
I missed those leather pants.
Revival.
It was that director didn't know what they were getting into because whose name I forget completely.
I think it was Donna? No, I don't know.
It was she blocked at the end. She was like, okay, you're gonna come back out and like take a long time dying. And she was like, and I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, just feel it out. And I was like, okay. You gave me way too much power just now. It's one of the greatest performances of my life.
It kind of, that one for sure paid homage to the original, like movie version.
Yeah, because they does
Paul
that. Ruben.
Y'all, thank you for finishing all of my names for me today.
You can tell like we've worked together before, like this. You mean this? And, like I do mean this. Or no, I don't mean that. You mean this.
Do you guys have theater backgrounds?
I did a couple of like dance shows or whatever. That I'm like I hate doing this, but my mom's like you look great. I'm like I hate my life.
Are there videos?
Yes. But I actually started doing stand-up comedy when I was 14. I got paid in dinner. And then I started doing talent shows. I started hosting them, and then I would do a set at the end. Tech theater, I started out doing stage management, and then started getting the comic relief, and then started doing musicals because I do love singing. I was actually cast in West Side Story as a guy because not enough guys at my high school could sing. And I'm like, but that's confusing because anybody wants to be in the gang, but they won't let a girl in. And like, doesn't matter. I'm like, do I have to take down my boobs? They're like, we don't care. I'm like, all right, let's
They said we don't care?
We don't care. I'm like, well, I appreciate
my whole life is having my boobs like
but yeah, and now once a year I talk to theater students in downtown Fort Worth with my theater teacher that got me into theater, which is kind of surreal because she went to college with Mike McFarland, who used to be my boss. He's also the voice of Master Roshi, and he's directed a ton of stuff. But it's just kind of crazy that how we're all interconnected. But it's just. She's like, I wish that we discovered and talked about voice acting in school, but now she just pays me to do that. So yeah, I loved it, and but I got my degree in radio, television, film in college, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah, like Jade, I started from a really young age doing stage and music, went into choir and theater in school, did the show choir thing. And then actually, I was going to pursue musical theater for college, and I actually got accepted into Oklahoma City University's musical theater program, which, if you don't know, they take 6 boys and 6 girls for their program each year, and that's it for musical theater. And so I was really, really excited. That was like the dream school. Kristen Chenoweth went there, and like she like made it big on Broadway, and so I was like, yes, I did it. I'd been going to their summer camps, like training to get there. And I had a theater coach that had helped me with my auditions to get into the program. Because the auditions for musical theater programs are absolutely ridiculous. And I took her out to dinner to say thank you, and she was telling me about the work she did in the area. And one of the things she said was Funimation. And I was like, I didn't know that was here, like everything else. I thought it was in LA. And she was like, no, it's here. You should go, if for nothing else, for audition experience. And I was like, I don't know about that. And she was like, no, just at least try it. And I was like, okay. I was still 17. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. And I went in for the open calls and auditioned with Joel McDonald. And funnily enough, he was like, are you a singer? And I was like, yes. He was like, you have like that kind of like melodic speaking, like it was weird. And then a week later, I got cast in Fairy Tale. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I just kept booking, and I was like, what do I do? So I went and I talked to the director for the program at OCU, and he was like, I want to be honest with you, right now you're doing what a lot of my students are preparing to do after college. So I can't say yes, you can do both, because I don't think it's safe for you to be driving to Dallas, back to Oklahoma, driving to Dallas, back to Oklahoma, because you're going to be involved in shows here, and they're going to run late, and it's just not safe. I don't feel comfortable with you doing that. So I had to choose, and I chose Funimation. So that's how I ended up
That's
where I
so
am.
hard. It worked out so well for you, but that was
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
oh my God, so hard.
Yeah. But 6 years later, here I am.
Good job. I was just enjoying that. I didn't even think of my answer. Are you more interested in the educational aspect of how I ended up here?
And spark, made it spark.
I used to run away a lot as a child. I used to be really dramatic, and I found myself reenacting dramatic scenes with kids on the playground a lot, and I think somewhere it was me trying to make sense of something. And I kind of got pushed into theater, and I did a lot of theater. And more and more my experience was somehow I got thrust into some artistic endeavor, and then like, it happened to me, and then afterwards I tried to make sense of it, and that became my education, and still is to this day, I think. So I went to an engineering school on an academic scholarship, and then somewhere like 3/4 of the way through, I was a terrible engineer, or I just didn't care. And so I cobbled together an arts and performance degree at an engineering school, which basically meant that I could do whatever I want. But I was influenced by a lot of like, profoundly narcissistic men who were very productive with their narcissism, and also like older men who taught me things, and older women who would often be like, you know, you should investigate stillness, and just people who just taught me things about myself. And like, I guess I know a lot about acting, but I'm a damn expert on my own brain, and that's as far as I can get. And as long as I spend my time thinking about that, somehow people pay me to do stuff, which is why I'm like, in a lot of ways I'm a terrible actor, because like I'm not like a character actor. I'm not very good at mimicry or putting things on or doing stuff on purpose. Yeah, I don't always know how I got here. And the more I invest in that, people continue to pay me to. It's kind of maddening though. I was thinking like I could like have Alzheimer's and still do my job, because I just have to sit in this booth and read the thing and like feel really in the moment. And it helps if you forget your entire life.
Austin! Jesus!
Yes, he comes from a theater background.
Theater.
Well, that's our time.
On that note.
Thank you guys so much.
Did I not answer the question right?
You do
I
in
was
your
just
own
trying to sum
way.
it up for everyone.
To be fair.
That's how you get into voice acting.